Because I know we can look at this situation and it was great between God and Adam. They did so good together. They loved being together. And then God created a woman. But it's not all the woman's fault. You see, Adam was with her the whole time. We can go there and look at it, but Adam was right there with her the whole time. And Adam had placed Eve under a law of his own. Before she ever bought into the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, she was already under a certain type of law that Adam put her under. I'm going to show you out of Genesis. Let's go to Genesis chapter 3, and we'll read. And actually it's in chapter 2, but I'll explain what happened in chapter 2. Chapter 2 is where God created woman and brought her to the man. And the man told the woman, God told Adam, he says, don't eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, because in the day that you eat of it, you will die. Now, this wasn't a physical death at the time that he ate of the tree. He died spiritually. He got disconnected from God. See, it's relationship. It's relationship. When you have a relationship, you know when the walls are up, when the walls are down. You know when you're in, you know when you're out. See, Adam's heart cut God out. That's the separation. The sin separated. It wasn't God was cutting us out. We cut ourselves out by eating from the tree. And I'll explain some more about while we read this. But Adam told Eve that she was not to look at the tree. She was not to touch the tree, lest she die. This was a lie. Adam was performing already out of fear that she would go eat of that tree. And this is one thing of temptation that happens many times. We're so scared of being tempted that we fall into the temptation. And we're so scared of it because of the law that's over us that you cannot touch, you cannot handle, you cannot taste. And it's constantly before you, and it puts you under this yoke, and it's driving you. It's a force of nature to drive you to the very thing that you hate and you end up doing. Paul talks about it in Romans. So he took the woman to Adam. He had taken her out of his side. You see, when Jesus was born of a virgin, and he came to earth, and he actually died for our sins, what happened with Jesus was that they threw the spear into his side and blood and water flowed. That's the rebirth. That's a picture of the rebirth, blood and water. It's also the testimony between heaven and earth that the church was born. Through his side, God created the church, and he caused a way back to the Father and back to relationship with God through his son, Jesus. This is what happened at the cross. You see, we were so full of fear and trauma because of our sin. Jesus went through all the trauma and all the fear that we ever experienced, and he took the trauma and the fear on himself. We wonder the reason why it was so horrific what he went through. But he took all the pain and carried all the sorrows of all time, from the beginning of creation all the way to the end when God comes back to take us on home. He took all of that upon himself. That's why it had to be horrific, because he took every one of our beatings upon himself. Every time that we were in trauma, every time we were in pain, he took that upon himself. So let's go to where it all fell apart. This loving God that just wanted to love on his kids. He just wanted to have his kids close to him. Let's go to where it all fell apart for him. You see, there's a big deal when it comes to trust in relationship. This is the reason why when men cheat on their wives have such a hard time, because they have a hard time trusting them now. And women the same. Because the trust has been broken. And I'm not trying to condemn anybody, but the trust has been broken. You see, we all have fallen short of the glory of God, every one of us. That's just an example of one sin. But think about all the different sins that we've committed in our lifetime and how many times that we've actually committed spiritual adultery against God. Numerous times we have walked away from God, done things our own way, and then we have committed these sins between us and God.